My name is Christy Busby, and you are about to listen to the next episode of my podcast called F.A.T.E. From Atheism to Enlightenment. So come on in, join me. We're going to talk about it all, from atheism to enlightenment. Alrighty, guys, here we go. Get ready, and welcome to your fate. Welcome, everyone, to the next episode of F.A.T.E. How's everybody doing today? On today's episode, I am bringing you Samuel Kiwasz. He is the Goodwill ambassador of the Southern California conscious community. Side note, when this airs, it will officially be the year anniversary of the launch of this podcast. So at the end of the show, in my wrap-up, I'll be giving you insights as to where I'm at in my spiritual development, what's coming up for the podcast, and where we're at in today's society. So make sure you stay to the end and catch that, gang. Happy anniversary to the F.A.T.E. podcast. And Samuel Kiwasz, welcome to your F.A.T.E., my friend. How you doing today?
I am that I am.
Thank you for coming on to the show. Before we get into anything, I do want to talk a little bit about how we met. I actually met Samuel at a atheist event where we were talking about how to escape the 3D matrix. And after the show, he and I kind of had a little interaction. He told me what he was kind of into, and I was like, okay, let's see if we can have this happen on the show. So thanks for taking the time today and spending it with me. I always like to start at the beginning. Please, Samuel, how did you step onto your path? When was your spiritual enlightenment? How did you become to be so knowledgeable about sacred geometry? I am all ears, sir.
That's quite a question.
It is. It's a long question.
I was raised an atheist. My parents were Holocaust survivors. They escaped from Poland into Siberia, and that's where they met. And they would have stayed there after the war, but the Jews were not very popular. Then they went back to my mother's little town in Poland, where they had the family had a shop. And the people who took over the shop said, you better leave, otherwise we'll kill you. So they didn't want to stay there.
Oh,
anyways, they ended up in a relocation camp in Florence, Italy. And ultimately, it's a long story, but ultimately they ended up in Los Angeles in 49. I was born in 51. My parents raised me as an atheist. Their main expression was, religion has done more negative things to kill people than anything man has ever created.
I agree with that statement, to be honest with you.
Still,
I do. I really do. I think organized religion is, I mean, we talked a little bit about this. I grew up atheist as well. My parents weren't atheists. I just detached myself from their belief system and went my own way. But to this day, I feel like religion, organized religion, is not here to bring us together, create harmony or peace, sense of love. Not all religions, not all churches. You can't blanket statement everything. But I don't know if there's any other thing on the planet that more people haven't died from than religion and their religious beliefs. That's my opinion.
But it fulfills a purpose. People need community.
They do.
And
I don't know
a lot of people feel very alone and estranged from society. And I think it's helpful for like drug addicts, when they find Jesus, they find a new drug. So it helps them. and it's more positive than doing drugs. In my particular case, in 1971, I was 20 years old, or 19, when I transferred to UCLA in my junior year. And they had something there called experimental college. And it's a school that used the campus of UCLA for their meetings. Anybody could teach a class, anybody could take a class. They didn't have to be part of the university. And I discovered about yoga, Tai Chi, meditation, hypnosis, and I loved it. I saw that there was something beyond atheism. And I told God, which I had a newfound belief in, take me through this as quickly as possible. Because the world is upside down, backwards, and crazy. And even if I have to go on the roller coaster, take me through this. And 2 years later, I got my wish. When I graduated from UCLA in 73, I went into a deep depression. And I'd never gone through a summer where there was no school to go back to in the fall. And I felt totally inadequate and untrained. I remember going to the job placement office there, and the only job I was qualified for was becoming a salesman for Gallo wine. And I just felt disenfranchised. And I had my Tai Chi teacher, he was a very, very dynamic, turned on individual. And I said, how do you get to be this way? He said, come meet my spiritual teacher. So there was a guy named Daniel Bloxam who studied Vedanta for 17 years and became enlightened. And every Thursday night, he had 4 hours at his home, which was a beautiful mansion in Hancock Park area, you know, where the old money is.
Oh, yeah.
And he had 2 hours of head work where he would share about his adventures traveling through the cosmos as an enlightened being. Then we'd have a half hour of meditation. It was a Kabbalistic meditation. And then we had an hour to 2 hours of spiritual work, heart work. We sang songs mainly from Shlomo Carlebach, who was a neo-Hasidic rabbi that went all over the world trying to bring Jews back to Judaism, because a lot of Jews were disappointed. And so he was like he was like a Jewish Santa Claus. And he had a beautiful voice, and he had a songbook. And we used to sing songs from his songbook. And so that's how I started my path. And I was looking for a spiritual community where I could fit in. Because being a product of the Holocaust, second generation, and being that I was counterculture, and being that I didn't go to Hebrew school, I wasn't trained in Judaism, I was just a cultural Jew, although my parents spoke Yiddish to me when I was growing up.
It's fascinating.
I didn't fit in anywhere. And I went looking for community. I had a deep need for community. Because I had that community at Daniel's every Thursday night for 18 years. He had 4-hour meetings. So I, first of all, went to Berkeley, and I met a woman who was part of the Ramdas group, Nim Curly Baba people. And I went with her and a group of yogis, American, yogis, wannabe yogis. We went to the southeast corner of Mount Shasta and camped out. And we all camped out by ourselves during the day, and we did our own sadhana, spiritual practice. I was reading Autobiography of Yogi, and deciding where am I going to go next. And then at night, we'd all come together and we'd have spearmint peppermint tea and we'd share. And I loved it. And we went to the I Am community. I got initiated into the I Am movement. It was an adventure.
Yeah.
And
sure.
then I finished autobiography yogi. I went to Kriyananda's ashram in Grass Valley to see if I could fit in there. He was a direct disciple of Yogananda, but he didn't have the power of the SRF. The other disciples were ostracized from the movement after Yogananda died. And I stayed there, but I was very strong adherent in freedom. I wanted freedom. And they had a very strict ritual of how you're supposed to pray, who you pray with. And that didn't suit me because I was all about freedom. And then I went to San Francisco and I went back to LA. And I talked to Daniel Bloxham, the teacher. And he says, well, we have some people who used to come here in Santa Cruz. Maybe they'll take you. So I went there. They didn't want me. And I ended up in San Francisco at the House of Love and Prayer. I was waiting for Shlomo Carlebach, the Jewish Santa Claus. And I thought, if anybody can help me, he was very spiritual. He can. And I waited and waited and waited for him. I couldn't stay at the center because I wasn't an Orthodox Jew. I had to sleep in my van. But I was allowed to come for events. Anyways, one thing led to another, and I ended up going through psychosis. I went from depression to psychosis, and I ended up in the mental hospital. And when I was in the mental hospital, I called. Shlomo finally came to the center, and I said, can you help me? He says, I'm sorry. There's nothing I can do for you. He was probably overloaded, So I was very deeply wounded. And I had no one to go to, nothing I could do. So for 2 months, I was in the hospital. They pumped me full of Thorazine. They had me start taking lithium. And for 6 months, I went back to LA and to my apartment in Santa Monica. And I was depressed. And after 6 months, I started to get better. And I started to make new friends and get a job. And a year from when I had my first psychosis, I went back into manic. God answered my prayer. He took me through the roller coaster. And when I get in that manic state, I would spend all my money. I wasn't violent, but I was in
unstable.
Another world. It was fun being manic, but I ended up back in the mental hospital. For 10 years, I was in the hospital for 2 weeks to 2 months every year. And then I had 6 months of depression. And then I'd rebuild my life. And then I'd go back in the hospital. I got my roller coaster. Careful what you ask for.
Yes. Oh, my word. So how did you eventually, I have so many questions on this story, by the way. Everything from what your family thought about your new spiritual awakening to how did you pull yourself away from this mental unwellness?
That's a good question.
Get on, or have you? Where are you at now with?
Wait, I need to answer your question first.
Yes, go ahead. Sorry.
How many hours do you have?
I have all the time.
Oh, my
world.
God.
Oh, yeah.
So after doing this for 10 years, I finally got tired of being bipolar. And I was taking lithium 8 years off and on. And I said, I'd rather die than continue the life I'm living. So I found a lay nutritionist who put me on EDTA, DMSO, and amino acids, high quality amino acids, which is protein, the essential part of protein. And for 2 months, I was on that program and I stopped taking lithium. And I basically stopped being manic depressive.
Oh, wow.
And ultimately, I wanted to help other people who were going through this. I was very lonely. When I was spending 6 months on the couch, I was a mushroom brain. Uh, I wasn't using my mind. It was going flat. Couch potato mushroom brain. And so I was very lonely and I blew my friends away with my manic stuff. And I wanted to create a group that helped people. Well, I wanted to help people. A friend of mine, the guy I ran track with in high school, he won city in the mile. I was second man. He became schizophrenic. And I tried hanging out with him. And I was working and he was not. And we were in two different wavelengths. So I couldn't really hang out with him that much. Ultimately, I wanted to create something where people could come together and help each other through their good times and bad times. And ultimately, I started Transformational Friends of Santa Monica, where I lived for 17 years. And in 89 and 90, 91, 89, 90, I had meetings every Wednesday night in my home. Just like Daniel, my teacher. He did it for 18 years. So that was my model. And the idea was to turn my home into a sanctuary where all people could be uplifted on all levels just by being another human being, another jerk on the bus, as we used to say in the men's movement. Anyways, we gather in my home, in my living room of my apartment. We sit in a circle. I'd use music, relaxing music, to take them into meditation. Half an hour of silence with no instructions. Do your own thing. And I'd bring them out of the meditation with inspirational music. Then we'd go around the room and introduce ourselves, share whatever we do, whatever we wanted people to know about. Then we'd have a speaker or a movie, something that was uplifting to help people. Then I'd have a whole table of healthy food. And this was a place where people I had a snail mail list of 600 people. Every 2 months, I'd send out a sheet telling people what was happening. Half my week was spent going out and inviting people to my events on bulletin boards, coffee shops, the old way.
Yeah.
And that's when I met the person who was to become my wife, Pauline. And she helped me, but I wasn't smart. I didn't delegate. So we did most all of the work. Then the third year, I rented a hall from the Quakers in Santa Monica. We were written up in the LA Times. We had up to 40 people in my home. And then at that time, 70 people at the house. And I burned out after about 3 years because I didn't learn how to delegate. People love to volunteer, and I wasn't giving them that opportunity. If I had it to do over again. Anyways,
You'd have a whole staff if you had to do it over again, I'm sure.
actually, I'm doing my own business now all by myself too, except I have the family in India that makes my pendants for me. I've been working with them for 15 years. Their son, Ritik, I met him when he was like 15. He's 25 now. Anyways, my business after COVID, I have over 80 different designs. My business was going down, and Ritik said, "Let me help you." I says, "Well, how much do I have to pay you?" He says, "You don't have to pay me. When you do well, we do well." So we've been working together for a couple of years now. And thanks to him, it brought me back. When I was 35, I went to a psychology class about family, and they talked about Erickson's 8 stages of life at Santa Monica College. And he said in the 5th stage, that's middle adulthood, I was 35, if you don't start giving back to your community, you stop growing spiritually. And at the time, I had a business where I was selling fruits, dried fruits, nuts, juices, and teas by the case to all the independent health food stores in LA. I was making 500 clear per week, working about a day and a half. I had all this free time, and the mind is like a rat in a cage. I had too much time to think. So I solved a bunch of problems by deciding to be a teacher. It was a way to contribute to society. It was a way to get me on a schedule because I was very freewheeling ex-hippie. And it was a way to make an income and raise it over time. And it solved my main problems. It gave me structure. I didn't have any structure. And I substitute taught for 6 years. And after that, I got tired of substituting. So I took some classes and I got my temporary teaching credential and taught 6th grade math science at Berendo Middle School, which is a inner city Los Angeles school. And having been exposed to sacred geometry through the work of Trumbull Melchizedek, he had a class called Flower of Life. It was 6 days long, and they videoed it. And he told all of his students, make copies and give them out to people. It was a fantastic marketing tool. Ultimately,
free marketing tool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ultimately, I ended up taking some seminars with him. And I watched these videos so much that it became cut into my bones, my DNA. So when I taught 6th grade math science, I thought, there's so many kids that are turned off to math. Let me find a way to engage them in something so they can have a positive experience with math. So I created geometric drawing, the math art connection. And I taught this to the students in my math class. I also taught it as an elective in middle school till after 3 years, they told me I couldn't teach that elective because I didn't have a credential in art. Anyways, I also created a workshop for math teachers, and it was up to 16 hours long. And I presented for the California Math Conference, up to 100 teachers at a time. These are math teachers who are totally in their left brain, had no connection to God. And when I taught the adults, math teachers, I included all the metaphysics.
Wow.
And I think I created an awakening for them because you can use sacred geometry to understand the creation of the universe.
Yes. Yes. Let's
Wait.
start talking.
I'm almost
Okay,
done.
Go ahead. Sorry.
And this is a direct path to source using mathematics and geometric constructions. Ultimately, they draw their own mandala, and they didn't want to leave my class because they were having a transformative experience.
Yes. Yes.
After 10 years, I'll make it short. It's a long story.
No, it's...
After 10 years of doing this, I wanted to experiment to see what would happen if I changed the name of the class from geometric drawing, the math art connection, to sacred geometry, the math art connection. So I changed the name when I applied to California Math Conference, and they rejected me because that was too religious, spiritual. So that was my excuse for going public. And I started doing PowerPoint presentations to the public at all the expos, Conscious Life Expo, Contact in the Desert, whatever. I've been doing that for about 15 years. I've been studying sacred geometry for about 20. Anyways, I wanted to have something that represented sacred geometry. So I bought a Sri Yantra symbol from Australia. I searched the internet and I started wearing it around LA, and people were stopping me in the streets saying, "Where can I get one?" So I said, I'm enterprising. I can make this into something. So I had a friend help me create a free website. I put it on there, and I put a few things on there. And then the people in India who made the pendants, they contacted me and they offered me a deal, which was much cheaper than me buying them from Australia. And quality wasn't as good as I wanted it. So I said, "You got to improve the quality." They said, "Well, you got to pay us more." We went back and forth, and eventually we came at a price. And here we are 15, 16 years later. And I have over 80 designs. And I'm called, I don't know if that's true, but I'm called an expert in sacred geometry. I've read a lot of books.
I believe you are an expert, which is why I'm having you on the
There
show.
you
I
go.
mean, there are I'm new in the spiritual game. Your journey was fascinating, from your upbringing
It's
of
not
being an
over yet.
atheist. It's definitely not. Um
By the way,
it's
I'll just say one thing. I'm writing a book. It's an autobiography. I'm also going to come out with a tarot type deck with sacred geometry symbols.
Oh, that's very, very enterprising. I mean, I
Not
think that
bad for a
sacred,
73-year-old.
not bad at all. Let's start getting into sacred geometry. Basically, let's have a little uh class, if you will, about sacred geometry, what it is. I think there's a lot of confusion about what are the origins of sacred geometry? What does it mean? I mean, when I knew you were coming on the show, I started to delve into it more, and I watched a few things, a few documentaries, um just gleaning some more insight so I could have some level of intelligent discussion with you about sacred geometry. It's sort of a new concept for me. I haven't been a very spiritually enlightened person for very long. I know of sacred geometry just from um, reading and being involved in this kind of circle for a little bit now. But when I started actually getting into what it is absolutely fascinating how math, in a way, is our reality. You can source back the very foundations of every single thing that we see, taste, touch, experience. You could chalk them all up to sacred geometry. So why don't we kind of address that? What is sacred geometry? What are the origins of it? What do people use it for? And I will give you the floor again, Samuel. It's all yours.
I'll take it. By the
All
way, you
right.
said you gleaned
Yes.
information. Well, you're also glowing. You gleaned and you
Oh,
glow.
thank you very much.
And it's not how long you've been doing it that's important, because we have past lives, I believe.
I believe too.
And you may have done amazing things in your past lives, and you just need to reactivate those seeds in your soul.
I agree. Once we dabble in the sacred geometry, I want to turn back around and kind of get your take on the nature of our reality and your spiritual belief system currently. I want to get back into that, but let's try and do at least the basics of what, if people are just new to these spiritual concepts, what's the best way you can explain what sacred geometry means.
My turn? Okay.
Your turn.
Sacred geometry is a way to explain the oneness of creation, how everything is interconnected and part of the source. And we are extensions of the source. The source is in us, and we are in the source. And it's creation. And about 20 years ago, I went to a talk on quantum physics. And what I learned from that meeting in Santa Monica, it's always Santa Monica, was that when one person makes a shift and their reality, it affects the entire cosmos. And that was so empowering to know that. I learned that I am infinitely empowered to affect the whole of creation.
Yes. I'm under the same exact belief system now that there is a global connected consciousness that we all swim in. We're all energetic beings, and we are all connected in ways that are magical and divine. And we absolutely can have an effect on what happens around us based on what we're thinking, what we're feeling, and what we're projecting out into this ether, this consciousness, this energetic wave pattern, etheric energy that is all around us that we don't ever acknowledge or talk about. But nevertheless, it exists. It's just not something that our five senses can necessarily pick up on. But I'm getting to the point, even with my own meditations, where I can very much pick up my own energetic aura. I can feel my own energy. And I'm learning as I go and as I develop spiritually how affected I really am by other people's energy around me. And I never really um, understood that or was able to acknowledge that, or even I never felt that before I started actually paying attention to things like energy and the fact that we're all connected. So um when we talk about sacred geometry, can we talk a little bit about the origins and of the ancient practices of sacred geometry and how it was maybe used in ancient times, which seems to me has become suppressed by mainstream science, by our obsession with materialism and consumerism. It feels like we have lost an entire system that we could be using to better our lives in every single way that we don't even acknowledge anymore. What do you think about that?
Well, I think science has suppressed a lot of things. And it almost, if they had their way, would put us back in the dark ages.
Yep.
I think the medicine of the future is vibrational medicine. All the products that I sell at the expos raises frequency. And as we wake up to what is, to all that is, we get more involved in raising our frequency because that's just a natural thing. It's part of evolution. And going back to religion, Carolyn Mace is a very good speaker. She said that part of our job as we spiritually evolve is to outgrow our tribe.
Hmm.
So
Well, That's hard because we're all desperately trying to cling to our tribe. That's for sure.
Speak for yourself. Um, we went like as you evolve, you want to be more free because Einstein's God is creativity and wonderment. So we want to be free of the constraints and conditioning from our religions, our schools, our parents, the media, commercialism, the legal drug culture. So we have to break through that conditioning to become our own person, to have a direct connection with source, with all that is. And as we raise our frequency, we start to care more about our health, cleaning out our pineal gland, which is our connection. It's our antenna. Once we have cleaned out, we can get messages directly from God. And we don't have to rely on anybody, any people, place, thing. Although it is good to hang out where ley lines cross, like Machu Picchu and in England, Stonehenge. But we break free of the thinking of other people. So we start to think for ourselves.
I'm finding, especially lately in these times, we are in such a chaotic time to be on the planet. We've left the age of Pisces, we've moved into the age of Aquarius. We are having this rise of technology. We I feel like the old guard is holding on desperately to the old world of consumerism, of materialism, of greed, of war, of lower vibrational ways of being. And I do feel like we are in a time where there is a great awakening happening, and that we are seeing more and more people start to understand who we are, that we are much more powerful than we think we are. And there is, through science, through what we watch, I feel like a desperate fight of suppressing and getting people to not tune into things like your pineal gland, which I think mine's calcified. I have to work on my pineal gland. I don't think my pineal gland is functioning currently.
More
But
pineal to you.
but what do you think about that? Do you feel like there is this spiritual war going on almost here, where there is a energy that wants to keep us locked in consumerism, materialism, and in lower vibrational ways of living, and that there is this benevolent force, energetic field out there that is also trying to awaken us and to allow us to understand who we are?
Yes. Um, I was born into the counterculture. My mother, when she got here after the war, she was looking for a way to get healthy. She discovered natural hygiene, the American Natural Hygiene Society, started by Dr. Herbert M. Shelton, who wrote a book called Fasting Can Save Your Life. And she raised my older sister, me, and my younger brother on mostly fruits, vegetables, and nuts. And when we were sick, she had us stay on water, just like the animals, and rest. And so that was my conditioning for my first 20 years. It was forced on me. It was a good thing in many ways. And my mother felt that if everybody ate natural, pure, organic, natural, they were buying organic foods wholesale, the downtown Central Market in the 50s and 60s. carloads full of it. Anyways, my mother felt if people ate this way, it would clean out not only their bodies, but also their minds.
I part of the reason I had a spiritual awakening was because I went through a health crisis and modern medicine, Western medicine wasn't helping me. So I started to seek alternative ways to heal. And it kind of opened the door to like energy healing and then spirituality. And I started doing plant medicine journeys. And then that really opened me up. And now here I am, all in and on my path. And food is something that I learned really early in my health journey that modern Western medicine doesn't even really talk about that much, of how crucial it is in every department of your being, that you eat clean, that you eat organic, non-GMO, that you don't eat meat that's filled with antibiotics and hormones, that you are living as close to the earth without preservatives and additives as much as possible. And you can see it in particularly America, where we allow these things like nobody's business. You go to Europe and it's much less, it's controlled over there much more. But there is so much ill health in America, and not only physical, but mental. And a lot of it has to do with our food industry and how corrupt and dirty and terrible it is for all of us, and how hard it is to eat clean. It's very hard. And I attribute it to the rise in diabetes, the rise in dementia, the rise in cancer, the rise in mental well-being, unwellness, whether it be ADHD or bipolarism. All of that you could connect to some level of food. And I'm not a doctor, and I'm not telling everybody anything other than saying you absolutely have to pay attention to what you put into your mouth. You do. It will change and transform your life if you start stepping in that direction. That's
Um,
what I learned.
the Nazis had a famous guy named Goebbels, and he taught them that if you repeat a lie often enough, it becomes the truth. So people are tired, they want to kick back, they watch TV, and they're brainwashed.
Yes.
And they're brainwashed to the point where they can't get in touch with what is. And that happens with uh, the assassination of Kennedy, 9/11, all, all through our history.
Yes.
And then with the COVID thing, those that took the shots, 3 shots and 2 boosters, and were told they wouldn't get COVID, that was a lie too.
Yeah.
And people who did that, they have amnesia. I mean, they can't deal with the fact that maybe they went the wrong way. So they continue to believe it because cognitive dissonance. People have that around 9/11 and the COVID thing. And it's a very serious problem. And that's why it's our job to wake up as many people as possible to the truth as we see it, which brings them back to spirit, that they're a spiritual being in a physical body. And
Yep.
so that's my job. And I just heard something on Coast to Coast last night. There's a very bright woman. She said, we each have 600 people that we influence in our first circle.
600? Woo, that's a lot.
Well, it's just, word of mouth and people. And she said each of those 600 have their own 600. So 600 times 600. And ultimately, you come up with 275 million people because we have 3 rings of influence. You get it?
That you can influence with your own energy or influence with your own thoughts or with your own beliefs?
All of the above.
All of the above.
What I did was in the 89, 90, 91, I was doing gatherings of people in my home. For the last 25 years, I have a Sacred Friends community. It's an online community of over 2,000 people who are into consciousness and health. And I send out email blasts 3, 4, 5 times a week. When I find something that is worthwhile, like people like you and your show, I can't help but share the information with my sphere of influence. So these are all people I've met and their friends. I do all the expos. I'm the Goodwill ambassador for the Southern California conscious community because my purpose is to spread goodwill to help people who are working on their consciousness become more conscious and wake up. Mind, body, spirit, cultural, creative community.
I love that.
And so that's what I do. And I sell pendants to those that are interested. My wife has been working with gemstones and crystals for 40 years. So we get the pendants in from India. She charges them up on a grid with the crystal skull and a pyramid and all kinds of energy grids. It's the highest
And
good for all people.
and sacred going back to sacred geometry, these pendants that you have, um are you basically putting them in patterns that are going to give them the highest level of raising the vibration? Is the goal when you wear your pendants, you're raising your own vibration through the energy of these pendants?
I had trouble with the word highest vibration
Oh,
because they all have their own vibration. It's based on the pattern in front, which is made with glitter. It's a yantra. It's a thing you look at to remind you that your spirit. And then the back, I have 5 different gemstones. This is black tourmaline. I have black tourmaline, lapis lazuli, red coral, turquoise, and malachite. Each of those stones do a specific thing. The black tourmaline is good for the first and second chakra. It's good for uh, grounding and protection. It helps block EMFs, which
we
we're
all knew that.
all bombarded by. Then the red coral, it works on the second chakra. And it helps with circulation and libido and gets things moving. The malachite is the heart center. It's opening, healing of the heart and health. The turquoise is the 5th chakra, communication. By the way, they're working on my voice box. I think I'm being reformatted so that I can communicate better to humanity. That's my theory.
Oh, interesting.
The 5th pendant is the lapis lazuli. It works on your 6th and 7th chakra, opens up your higher centers, helps you with your dream work. So they each have their own function. So it depends on what you need. If you're in your head a lot, you might want black tourmaline to help ground you. If you're growing spiritually, you might want lapis lazuli to help you evolve and have your breakthrough, aha experience. So it's a combination. And when we have a booth, my wife, Pauline, she has people pick out 3 pendants. And then she does a reading based on the like a tarot card reading.
Yes.
And we're going to come out with some pendant cards ultimately. And she goes, she's a medical intuitive. She's very, very psychically hooked in. Her third eye is open. So she takes people to a deep place, her angels and their angels, and they have breakthroughs. And she doesn't charge. And she goes till completion. It might be 30 minutes, it might be 2 hours. She lets spirit decide. And when they're done, they can buy some of the pendants they picked or not. She doesn't believe in charging. Sorry. She was a nurse for 43 years. So she's retired from that.
Well, maybe I'll come pick up a few pendants and get a reading. Who knows? I mean, we're close enough, where we could probably make that happen.
Anything is possible. You want to know more about sacred geometry origins?
Yes.
Okay. In my seminar, I would teach from the right eye of Horus. There was Akhenaten and Nefertiti. The water. They had a mystery school in ancient Egypt. Akhenaten is famous for leaving the main city and starting a community based on art and spirituality. And he wasn't interested in acquiring more land. He was interested in raising the vibrational consciousness. So he had a theory called the creation of the universe based on sacred geometry. And it has a correlation with Genesis in the Bible. 6 days of creation. So according to the theory, because God is the void, it's everything and nothing. And it wanted to experience itself. So it projected itself along the x-axis is math, along the y-axis, and along the z-axis. And then connected the ends of those projections into two pyramids, one on top, one below, octagon, and started to spin it. And that became a sphere. And then on the first day of creation, that sphere created another sphere, one inside the other. And the middle part is the Vesica Pisces. It's like our eyes. It's like the womb from which we're born from. I talk about all this in my seminars. And every day, God created another sphere. They all interlocked. And on the sixth day, God rested. And you had the seed of life. 7 spheres, one in the center and 6 all around. And then that seed of life opened up into the flower of life, which is found in ancient structures all over the world.
Yes.
Archaeology, sculpture, art. The ancient Greeks had all of their art based on what became known as the Fibonacci sequence, the divine proportion. And it was the Romans that went away from that. They played military music. They were very interested in conquering other people. And they lost that connection to the sacred. And ultimately, we ended up in the Dark Ages. And it wasn't until 1400s, I believe, around then, Leonardo da Vinci came. He was a genius who understood divine proportion. And he brought that back into his art, sculpture, and architecture. And he spread that throughout Europe as the Renaissance.
Yes. Would you say that are we pretty much living in a geometrical matrix? Is our reality based in a geometrical pattern we can't see, but it is energetic geometrical patterns? Is that how you see the nature? What do you see the nature of our reality is I guess my
Well, I've been
question.
getting more and more information that we're living in like a matrix. You saw the movie The Matrix?
Yes.
When I saw that movie, I went bananas. I said to everybody, I was going crazy. I said, we finally are being told the truth. Now,
Yeah,
the second and third movie were not as impactful as the first one, but it's a simulation.
it is, isn't it? It
That's
is.
why it's so important for us to find our essence and express our individuality. It's like we're like grasping for survival.
Yep.
Uh, so AI has its advantages, but it also has its fallback. And you can create some writing with AI, but it could be more plastic. Whereas if you do your own writing from your soul, what I do is I ask for the greatest loving and highest good for all concerned. And I ask for support, protection for my soul family, archangels, ascended beings, and God before I ask myself a question. Basically, I'm asking, it's my higher self, I'm asking for assistance from all that is.
Yes.
And that's how we get to be our own person. Otherwise, we're just another robot. In fact,
Yes.
I've heard that the reference to people, most people are zombies, literally.
I was going to say the same thing. I do feel like we're living in a time where the level of non-thinking entities that are out there walking around just reacting to their environment and not actually processing thinking um in their bodies, comprehending all of that. I feel there's more of them than there are of people that are actually functioning fully aware of their surroundings, processing information, thinking critically. The ability to think critically for yourself and have your own original thoughts is starting to go to the wind. We are so um attached to our modern day technology as far as we use our phones for everything. We look to other people to tell us what we already believe anyways in our own being. We don't have any original concepts, original thoughts. I don't feel that people are even interested in having their own thoughts. They're just interested in entertainment. They're interested in the football game. They're interested in binging a television show. They're interested in turning their own brains off. They're not interested in tuning into who they are.
Well, it's the powers that be on the physical plane giving us bread and circus,
Mm.
just like in the ancient Roman times. Modern circus is sports.
Yes. Yes. And I would get a lot of hate out there if I started talking negatively about football or what, pick your sport. There's just like uber fans of like live free or die hard for whatever sport you're into. And I understand sports. I played sports in high school.
I
But
was
once
a
I became
track
an
runner.
Yeah, I think it's great for kids. I think it's a great way to have camaraderie and build stick-to-itiveness and muscle and goals and pushing yourself. Amazing for all of that. Wouldn't take I wasn't even that good at sports and I played. And but I think that now these days it is such a hyper overly, you know, just obsession with people with their fantasy football leagues or whatever that it's just a distraction to keep them from actually getting on their own reason for being here. We're all here for a reason. We all have a sole purpose for being here. We're all on a journey. And I think all of these different things that we would label as entertainment, and I'm down for entertainment. I'm down to watch an occasional movie. I work in the movie industry. I'm down to have fun, but it is gotten to the point where people think that life is about fun. Life is about being entertained. Life is about turning your brain off and letting whatever screen that you choose to watch, whether it be your TV or your phone, tell you what to think,
Computer.
say, and believe. Computer, yeah. So we're only going to see more of this in our as we move into the age of Aquarius. It's only going to become more ubiquitous. It's going to be harder not to be a part of these technological advances. They're going to make it to where it might be a little bit harder for you to get into an airport or get into a game or whatever, because you're going to need your eyeball scanned, or you're going to have some sort of implant. Like, all this stuff is on our plate. It's coming for us. And all of it is designed underneath. Sure, might it appear convenient when it comes out? Maybe. But it is all designed to keep us separate and try and disconnect us from who we are, from our higher selves, from our spiritual path that we're all at some point supposed to get on. I mean, not everybody is going to awaken in their lifetime. I understand that. And I know I've had prior lives as well. I don't know if I was spiritually awakened in them or not. But in this lifetime, I have started my awakening. And my little way of giving back, of serving, is to do this show and try to raise the vibration of this planet. Try and get people to understand that they are powerful, that they are more than their material bodies, that we are an energetic being, that we're connected. There's so many things. And I was an atheist like you. I was an atheist for years. I thought the planet was more like a little ball of life, and it produced life, and you aged, and you went back to earth, and it was like a cycle, which it sort of is. But there's so much more going on than just our five senses can allow us to see. And that's what I'm doing out here, is I'm saying, hey, come on, get on your path, start doing some investigation, look within, understand who you are. And it's going to be a journey. I'm going to do what I can do, but I think that I've talked to a lot of spiritual people, and most of them say that they're all trying to serve, to give back, to help others to do the same. That's part of being here, is that we are supposed to be of service to each other, and we are supposed to be here to take care of your fellow man, to assist them, to guide them, to help them. Everybody has their own journey, and I feel like we're living in a time where we've never been um less connected. We're so disconnected, we're so divided, there's so much hatred, there's so much division, and it's just a very I feel the energy. I've never felt this kind of chaotic, out of control energy like we have now. And I think normality is a thing of the past. As far as my lifetime, I don't think we're ever going back to being normal. Not in my lifetime. And by normal, I mean, let's go back to like 2010. 2010, I just felt like we're all in this together. We're all moving in the same direction. Things were improving. Life was going to continue to improve, and war was going to become a thing of the past. And, we had gay marriage being legalized, and we had people coming together, and life just seemed like, okay, I'm living in some of the best times to be alive. Yes. Now I feel like I am living in one of the worst times to be alive ever. Ever. I mean, obviously, I have lots of creature comforts, but the cycle in which we are in is one in which we're going to see a lot of things break around us before we ever see them get better. And sometimes breaking systems is what needs to happen in order to rebirth something else. But I in no means think that we're going to go back to living our lives doing what we were doing 15 years ago, I think our lives are going to continuously, dramatically change more and more and more the further we go down this new age. What say you, Samuel?
How do I say anything after all that? Um, I say that I choose not to focus on people that are living in that place. It's the old expression, don't throw pearls before swine.
I've never heard of that one.
You haven't?
No, I've never heard of that
There's
one.
no way they're going to appreciate what I have to offer if they're so locked into that old paradigm. And so I think we're growing in different directions. There will be people who insist on staying locked on to the way that they're used to living, and they won't want to let go, and they're going to suffer a lot.
Yeah.
And then there are people that can see the world, see through all the illusion, and they will have much smoother path. Ultimately, they will end up in almost like another dimension.
I've heard of this. I listen to Dolores Cannon a lot, and she does talk that we're living and coming upon in a time in which we are going to be able to. There's going to be a splitting of the timelines in a way, and people are the people that are on their path that understand what's going on and what's happening are going to move up to like 5D, and they're going to live with more harmony, more peace, more love, more compassion, more creativity, more joy. And then there's going to be people that are just so stuck in consumerism and materialism and anger, rage, war, and they're going to stay here on this earth, and it's going to be like two different earths materialize, but we can't see one another and we won't miss each other. Does that is that similar to your
Makes
thought
total
process?
sense. And
Yeah.
when I teach my sacred geometry workshop, PowerPoint, I talk about the importance of increasing your vibration, your magnetic field. We have a tube torus around our body. It's a magnetic frequency. The earth has a tube torus around it. So we want to raise our vibration to be in sync with the tube torus of the earth. And then we're in harmony with nature, in harmony. I tell people, when you try to decide what avenue to pursue to grow in your spiritual path, you have to ask yourself, is this person or philosophy teaching things that support life, or are they antithetical to life? So that'll help you decide whether you want to invest your time and energy into those things. Also, I teach that in order to build your magnetic fields, first thing in the morning, you set the vibration for the day. So if you do 2 or 3 of these things, at least one of them, be it meditation, breath work, yoga, healthy food, going out for a walk, the more of this you incorporate into your day, especially at the beginning, first thing, that sets your vibration. When you go to sleep, it's like a small death. When you wake up, it's like being reborn. So that's like setting the new vibration for this day so that when you go out into the world, you're not pulled down by all those negative things you mentioned. But your very presence in the community, wherever you go, lifts everyone up. And again, this speaks to how powerful we are. So if we claim our power, it's not enough to know about it. We have to put into practice as much of these things as we can handle. You do the work of spiritual upliftment just by your very presence. So it's not like you have to do something in the world. You might have to work a job you don't like to pay for your material livelihood. But even that, your attitude makes a big, it's not what you're doing as much as your attitude toward what you're doing. And how do you get along with the people you work with? Are you lonely?
Yeah.
Do you go out and befriend someone who needs a friend? Uh,
I also think that if people understood how the law of attraction truly works, and that if you are um resonating more with uh joy, peace, harmony, love, um, you are going to attract more. Your life is going to become better no matter what, because the universe is going to give you things that you align with in this life. And when you are aligning with higher vibrational things, the universe has no other way to say it than to have those things show up in your reality. And I know there's a lot of fear going on in the world right now. There's a lot of reasons to be scared. But I try to say on my show all the time that they should understand what's going on, and acknowledge what's going on, but to allow it to affect your vibrational being, who you are, is the worst thing that you can do. It really
it's
is.
very important who you choose to hang out with.
Yeah.
Tell
Yeah.
me who
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
friends are, and I'll tell you who you are.
Yeah.
My
Yeah.
wife, Pauline, she was born into and raised a Seventh-day Adventist.
Oh.
Her mother was very religious, and she went to a Seventh-day Adventist school, and all of her friends were part of that. And she decided at the age of 5, she was going to be a nurse. And when she went to nursing school, one of the classes she took was comparative religion. And then she found out about all these other religions out there. She was taught as a kid, first God, then others, then yourself. She was programmed to be of service to everyone. And that's how she lives her life. And then when she's got a real high IQ, and she's smarter than me. Anyways, in college, nursing school, she found in the comparative religions about all other religions and philosophies. And being that she was very intelligent, she said that was her aha. She realized that there's a big world out there, and there's more than one way to crack an egg,
Yep.
and that there are lots of pathways to source. And she became a universal thinker.
I would like to, I'm no genius, but I certainly
You're not dumb either.
am no dummy. That's for sure. It's just no way. But I don't ever see myself ever going back to church. I have plenty of friends. I'm not missing community. I don't miss that at all. I went to the Atheist place, because I interviewed Paul Nugent, who's one of the big heads of that
I read his book
establishment.
and
I read his book too.
sent down a review of his book to
Yeah.
my list.
Yes. So I went there to kind of just check it out. And I would go to like a spiritualist church because they have mediums and they like talk to spirit, and there's like I find that to be fascinating. So I would do that. But I don't ever find myself going back to church like on a Sunday at like a congregation.
You
That's just
might
not
have
going to
had
be
a
my
bad experience.
I sort of did, but I also I'm not getting pulled in that direction. If I were having any kind of pull, I would go, but I don't. I don't miss it. I don't feel like that's my path. And I feel like I've learned a lot more, quite frankly, interviewing all these amazing people that I've had on my show about spirituality, spiritual concepts, and I've always been super independent. I've always been super uh I was never somebody who would follow somebody else. I'm a leader. I'm not a follower. Like that's just my Aquarius nature. Um and I agree with your wife. I think there's so many different ways to source, and I think that all religions do have at their foundation good. I think it's been manipulated by mankind. I think there's too much dogma in it. I think there's too much of a hierarchy in there. I don't like hierarchies. I'm not looking to anyone, even God. I don't think I'm very much egalitarian. I look at God. My aspect, my perspective on God is everywhere. God is in me, in you, and in every living thing out there that we see. God is in there. God exists within us all. He is all that is. And I'm I just don't think religion, organized religion,
Sure.
is what works for me. But I think that, if it's a situation where you align with that and you pull with that, then, you know, I'm learning more and more not to be judgmental of other people's decisions. It's their journey.
Whatever
It's not my
floats your
journey.
boat.
Yes, it's your path. It's none of my business what you do. As long as you're not hurting me or other people around me or anybody in my vicinity, then live your
I
life.
suggest you check out Foster Gamble.
Who's that?
He
Or what
did
is
the
that?
movie Thrive
Oh,
and Thrive 2.
oh, okay.
He has a group. I've been following him for 10 years. We meet once a month online
Mm.
for 2.5 hours. And he's very similar to your philosophy.
Yeah.
I also want to say in my sacred geometry, ancient wisdom for modern living, I talk about the circle. We tend to live in a circle and we go rounds and rounds and repeat ourselves. And it's only in breaking free of the circle that we claim become this. We still go rounds and round, but it's a spiral, spirals up. And I talk about Jonathan Livingston Seagull. It's an example of a seagull that would no longer accept the normal ways of being a seagull. He broke free to become his own person. And I was talking about Carolyn Mace. That's our responsibility as we evolve to break free of the
Yeah.
conditioning of the circle and find our way. And ultimately, as we evolve and as we grow, we start to form our own planet and solar system and cosmos and universe. We keep going like that.
That's amazing. That is amazing. I never heard that before. That's a new concept for me.
You
Um
don't you know you're a star? Don't you know who you really are?
well, I can't think of a better way to end this show than that. That's for sure.
I love to
Samuel,
sing.
I do too. I was in show choir in college and everything, so I come from a singing background myself.
I was in choir and madrigals in high school. I was in
Yeah,
boys'
me
glee
too.
in junior high, and I used to be in the Santa Monica Oceaneers, which is a
That's
barbershop
amazing.
chorus.
Before we conclude our fascinating discussion today, I know you have a website for your celestial sacred geometry pendants. Where can people take a look and peruse your pendants and see if there's anything in there that appeals to them?
I have 3 websites.
Okay.
Um, the pendant website is sacredpendants.com. And you can contact me at order@sacredpendants.com. SACREDPENDANTS. And then the other income stream I have is I sell violet glass bottles and jars. And they're the high end of glassware. And they keep things fresher longer and raise vibrational frequency. Anything that you care about, be it your pot, the pot industry loves our glass because it actually works. Whatever you care about, your protein powders, your seeds, your nuts, your elixirs, you can use them. I have 40 different sizes. So that is violetflameglass.com in honor of Saint Germain and the violet flame.
Oh,
VIOLETFLEMEGLASS.com. And the third one is sacredfriends.org. And anybody can go to that website and sign up. And then I will send them emails, anywhere from 2 or 3 to 4 or 5 per week. And people are always stopping me in the street and saying, thank you. It's like someone could be new to LA and trying to find their way. And if they get on my website, all of a sudden they have a community to plug into.
it's all about community, folks. It's all about community. That's for sure. Well, Samuel, you are fascinating. You have a fascinating story. I love that you're the Goodwill ambassador of the Southern California conscious community. And it was a little bit maybe serendipitous that we met at the Atheist Society and we're able to have this conversation today. And I hope to see you again. And folks, I'm going to leave all those websites in the show notes. So check him out, get on a newsletter. I'm going to get on and check out your pendants because I'm always
Cool.
in the market for that. And with that, Samuel, I'd like to thank you today for becoming a part of the F.A.T.E podcast. And ladies and gentlemen, we will see you next week on F.A.T.E From Atheism to Enlightenment. Thank you, Sam. And journey well, everyone. Thank you. And that is a wrap on this episode of F.A.T.E From Atheism to Enlightenment. What an interesting conversation. Man, that guy has had a journey between being raised as an atheist to his search for community, his mental unwellness, his teaching. He's had a life, that one. I wish Samuel all the best. I'm going to put all of his website information in the show notes, and feel free to get yourself a pendant and raise your vibration, gang. This is going to be airing on Monday. It is officially 1 year since I have launched this podcast. I have had the most incredible experience with it. I have met amazing people and I have learned so much, all the while going through my own awakening, my own meditation practices, my own healing journey. It has been a gift to be able to do this show. It has gone beyond what I thought it would be. I really have had such a it's kind of even hard to describe how easy, not easy, but how it has flowed so naturally and without any real bumps in the road, and again, the people that I have been able to meet and interview has been more than I could have ever dreamed of. And so here we are. It's been a year. I am fully on my path now. I have grown a lot in the last year. I've still had such rough times with my health. I'm having a really and particularly hard time with my finances, my career. I work in the movie industry, as most of y'all know, and the movies have left. They have gone to Europe, or just they're just not making as much as they used to. And many of my friends are on hard times, are experiencing a lot of anxiety, stress, fear, having to sell their homes, having to get jobs at places where they never would have found themselves at the ages that they are. They're too young to retire. They're um they're too old to start over and go back to school. I'm kind of in a similar situation. Like, I was making a good living making movies, and I've got a couple of balls up in the air that are super creative, and I'm very excited about them. But they're all the long game, guys, and I am slowly going down this financial, danger zone that I've seen my other friends go down. And some of my other friends are even having spiritual awakenings, because making movies can very easily lose yourself in it. In a way, it consumes you when you're on a show, because you're working 15 hours a day. You don't really have anything else going on. It's a lifestyle, and it's a certain kind of animal that works in the industry. They're creative, they're fun, but they're chaos. And they are it's the industry is filled with people that work in the movie industry because they're not somebody that can work a 9 to 5 job. I know who I am. I know who I am. I am super independent. I require a lot of autonomy. I've been freelancing for over 20 years. I I can't imagine at this journey trying to go find a job making what it would pay me, which would be like maybe a quarter of what I make, and surviving and thriving and being happy and fulfilled. That's not my path, man. It's just not. And it's okay if it's your path. I mean, we all want different things in the world. We all get pulled in various directions based on our our inner being. But I'm having to reinvent myself, and it's difficult. It is I feel unstable. I have to do a lot of grounding. I have to do a lot of meditation, and I'm trying very hard not to be scared. And part of my spiritual journey has really allowed me to live in that now. And I live in the present moment. And in my present moment, I have a roof over my head. I'm still paying my bills. And I'm enjoying a lot of the time that I spend having these kind of conversations with people that I align with, that I can bounce ideas from, that I can talk to in a way that I can't talk to a lot of my mainstream friends about. They're just not there. But I consume this stuff on a regular basis every single week, and it's just different. It's not better nor worse, just different. Some of my friends, like I said, are coming to me now and asking about what my thoughts are on this, and they're having their own experiences, and they're starting to get involved into listening to other spiritual leaders out there that are speaking about concepts. But I getting on my spiritual path has very much allowed me to release fear. And I have my moments, and even this week, last week, I've kind of started hitting a little bit of a wall, you know. Maybe it's part of the process. You go along, and you feel good, you feel like, I'm vibrating, I know things, and the universe is going to take care of me. And then when it's not happening on your timeline, you start losing your confidence that it's going to happen. because, you start looking at my bank account. I'm starting to look at like, oh God, it's been a long time since I've gotten a call for work. And, you start doubting. Doubt starts creeping in because you can't help but look at the reality of your current situation. It's just you can't deny it. At some point you have to be like, okay, what am I doing? And I'm trying desperately to pull myself out of that situation and realign myself with positivity, with knowing that I'm going to be okay, with resonating with higher vibrations. There's just so much going on right now in the world because it's not just my career that's going down the toilet. It's my country. There's just so many chaotic things to that you have to acknowledge that's happening, like especially in the United States, guys. It just I don't want to talk politics. At the end of the day, I used to be kind of a political person, and now I look at it from such a spiritual perspective that I have lost my red and blue. I'm not interested in either one of those games. I really feel like um, politics is you're never going to win this battle. They have just divided us. We don't listen to the same information anymore. You're so easily disregarded by the other side. If you even hint, if you even smell like the other side, they're going to disregard you. I mean, shut you down, hate you, oust you. Like it's weird. It's super dystopian. I don't feel, like I said on the show, I don't feel like we're not going to head back into normal times anytime soon. And so I don't know if there are other people out there that are living in anger about what's happening or you're living in fear. It doesn't matter. It's still low vibrational energy that is just going to create more of the same in your world. And I just can't advise you enough to launch yourself up 30,000 in the air and kind of look down and be an observer of humankind, not a participant right now. Be an observer of what's happening. Watch it from afar, guys. Don't get sucked into it. Don't get sucked into the drama. And I know, like, hey, we got to get out there and fight for whatever side you're fighting for currently. No, you don't. No, you don't. Vibrate higher. Align yourself with energies and frequencies that are going to lift you to an ascended point of view. Because if you get down there and you're fighting tooth and nail with people that are never going to align with you, never, I don't care what side you're on. The other side's not coming for you. They're not. Not anytime soon. So I'm not going to dabble in the politics of the human experience right now because it is a trash pit that should just be set on fire and burned to the ground. It really is going to get a lot worse before it gets better. And unfortunately, we are living in a new age. Things that were working in the past are going to be breaking all around us. Our government, our media, our healthcare system, world alliances, everything is shifting. The energy is chaotic. I feel it. And I can't express to you enough that you need to chin up, to realign yourself, to breathe deep, to ground, to meditate, to come from a place of love, compassion, no matter what. And that's me talking. I I was not this individual just a few years ago. I would kill a bitch. I really would. I'm still not one to mess with, but I am certainly um navigating my life in a completely different way and not allowing other people's energies to affect my own as much as I can. I not only do I do spiritual hygiene stuff like, you know, meditating, grounding, breathing, walking in nature. I do all of that stuff to try and keep my energy flowing and clear and good so I can align with my highest and greatest. But I try not watch the news, and I'm certainly not out there listening to political people online tell me something that I already believe, because that's basically what they do on both sides. Both sides. And if people on the right think that all their media and their people are telling them the truth and that mainstream or left-wing media is all lies and nobody tells the truth, I am sorry to tell you that you are just wrong, naive, wishful thinking. It's both sides. They're just appealing to a certain type of person, and you're either going to fall in one side of that category or the other. Not everybody. There's plenty of independents out there, and at the end of the day, it's really a mesh of both sides that are going to make something function. But we don't have that anymore. We have the extreme of the extreme of the extreme in everything. We everything. Extreme wealth, extreme poverty, extreme politics. It's just everywhere. And I guess you could look at it as it being an exciting time to be alive. You know, there is a great awakening happening. There is. I'm trying to get you too to get on the get on the train, to start opening up to what and who you are. You are more powerful than you think you are. You are. And I know that many, many, many people need some sort of traumatic event for them to crack open that brain of theirs. But maybe just dip your toe into this process. You don't have to go all in. You certainly don't have to believe everything that I do. But if you start acknowledging that there's more going on than what they have taught us, that we are very much programmed to not be connected with our spiritual selves and to not see that there is more beyond our five senses. There is so much more. I don't think our history is accurate. I think that is intentional. And I think that, I am hoping, even though we're probably going to see some really gnarly stuff happen these next few years, I am sure of it. All I can say is for me, I'm navigating it completely different with my spiritual awakening, with much less fear, with much more hope, love, compassion, understanding. And if you think you're going to win in whatever side that you're on, I feel like we're all going to lose and things are going to kind of be destructive and destroyed and then hopefully from that we will get a new way of being, a new system. The system that we currently have doesn't work. It works for people that are rich, people that are well connected. It does not work for the average human being that's on this planet. And we have become drunken on materialism. We are obsessed with consumerism, with buying things that we don't need, with having the right house. I talk on this show often about the status, the women with the 2,000 pairs of shoes in their closet, and people look at it like, "Ooh, I look at that," and I'm like, "What?" Like I don't understand that. I personally can't understand that, but I also don't care about status. I don't care what people think of me, really. I mean, it's just, I don't wear designer clothes. I don't waste my money on that. Like, I don't care about that stuff. I don't even have my ears pierced. Like, eh, I, I'm just not that girl. Maybe I'm an old soul and I already know that the money game is a bullshit game. Maybe. But here I am. I'm on my journey. A year. Happy anniversary. 1 year for the Fate podcast. I do want to thank everyone who's been with me from the get-go. I really appreciate it. I'm no guru. I am learning as I'm going on. I'm hoping you're learning along with me. And I do want to continue to keep bringing you interesting guests that have a point of view that maybe you never have heard before. Everybody here, gang, has a sole purpose, has a mission, has a reason why they're here. We are all here to expand, grow, raise our consciousness, our vibration. And I do think there's going to be a bit of a separation of the timelines at some point where people that are on their path and are raising their vibration and are understanding who we are going to ascend to a different time space reality. And the people that are so locked into their way of being and they're grounded in fear and they're grounded in their own ignorance, their own lack of self-awareness, their entertainment obsession, all of that. When you start looking at human behavior, it's kind of bizarre now. Like, we don't connect. We don't care about each other. I'm thinking about doing a show on compassion and how little we have it for each other. And not everybody. Everybody is different. And when I make statements, I'm not trying to blanket every single person on the planet, but a good portion of the people on the planet are lost. They don't know who they are. They're not dialed in and thinking for themselves whatsoever. They are caught up in a tribe that they can't escape. And I'm trying to throw them a lifeline. I don't know. I don't know why they would listen to me. I mean, people so easily disregard one another. It's easy to do for sure. I used to do it. I was guilty of it. Nobody could tell me anything either. That's like the terrible thing about who we are. It takes a lot for us to change our perceptions and the way we think because we really do think we have it all figured out. And if you're happy spending your time ingesting entertainment, going to your 9 to 5, and not thinking really much past survival mode, then I think you'll probably live there till you're not here anymore. But if you are understanding that we're more, that there is more, that we have been sheltered, um, kept almost from our own power, I'm going to say take your power back. You are powerful. You are not um, helpless. You have every capacity to change your own life in whatever you want. And I'm learning that. I'm starting to put those practices into place. And even though I'm like, okay, universe, I'm ready, show up. It hasn't yet. It hasn't. But it's not my divine timing either. Everything happens on divine time. So I'm plugging along. I'm going to keep doing this. I would love to monetize this podcast and either get sponsors, or maybe I try and like put I wrote a little children's book. Maybe I put the link to my children's book and buy my book. It's adorable. It's about dogs, and I'm actually turning it into a full-length feature, and I'm hoping to do that's one of my creative, like, inspirational things that I'm doing. But it's a long game. It's a process. I need to go back to work like tomorrow. Anyways, guys, happy anniversary to the F.A.T.E podcast. Please do me a favor. Like, subscribe, share, tell a friend. Turn someone onto this show. Get them on their path. I hope you're getting on your path. There's tons of other podcasts that are out there that are spiritual. Start listening to those. Start buying some books. I do audiobooks. A lot of the books that I do are audiobooks. Get out of your comfort zone. There's just so much out there to learn, grow, and it does just change you. And I can't change back. I'm never going to be who I was. I've opened the box. It's done. I am on this path. I will be on this path until I am here no more. But I'm not afraid to die. I'm not. I am an eternal being of light. I have nothing to be scared of. I have been here before. I will likely be here again, although I had a destiny card reader tell me that this was my last journey on this rock and that I was getting off after this life. And he said, that's why you don't have kids, because you're not creating more karma in this life. It's your last time, girl. And that makes a lot of sense to me. I don't have kids. I'm not married. And I feel like an old soul in a way. So maybe I'm an old soul. Maybe I've been here so many times that I've fulfilled my karmic cycle, and I'm going to expand. And maybe, like Samuel said, I'm going to get my own planet, cosmos, whatever my soul is supposed to learn after this 3D Earth plane I'm currently on. Anyways, guys, I'm gonna leave it there. I will see you next week on F.A.T.E. I think next week I'm going to have Marianne Weston from Revealing Light Tarot on. She's very accomplished tarot channeler, tarot card reader, psychic. We had a great conversation. That's going to be next week. And you know the drill. Welcome to your F.A.T.E, gang. I'll see you next week. Bye.